It's something about waiting that makes most people uncomfortable. We live in a world that moves at the speed of Wi-Fi, where food, likes, and validation can be delivered to your doorstep or your screen in seconds. But when it comes to rebuilding life after incarceration or even just maturing as a person, nothing happens instantly. When I came home, I wanted everything all to fall into place: the job, the car, the respect, the peace. I had done my time, paid my dues, and felt like I deserved it. But what I didn't realize was that I was chasing instant gratification, right? And it was disguised as progress. I wasn't building a foundation, I was sprinting towards a finish line that really didn't exist. Now, instant gratification is one of the most dangerous thinking errors we can hold on to after release. It tells us that if we don't see results quickly, then something's wrong. Maybe something's wrong with the world, something wrong with the system, or even with ourselves. But in truth, growth has a rhythm, not a rush. Now, this episode is about learning how to slow down without giving up, how to stay committed when progress isn't visible, and how patience can be one of the strongest survival skills you'll ever develop, not just in reentry, but in everyday life. Freedom isn't just the absence of walls, it's the presence of peace. And we talk about that on the podcast all the time, right? It's all about finding that peace. So thank you for walking with me through this episode of The Conviction Fiction. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The need for right now, right? That's something that we all have. We want, like, we want it right now. It makes us. It's actually, to me, a quiet addiction that disguises itself as ambition, right? It makes you think you're chasing progress, but really you're just chasing a feeling. And that rush says, "I'm finally getting somewhere." But the danger is once that rush fades, so does your motivation. So we're going to talk about instant gratification on Conviction Fiction today. As I remember when I first came home, everything in me screamed for movement. I wanted to make up for some lost time, right? I think we all want to make up for lost time. Years that have been swallowed by the walls, steel and routine. So I hustled, I filled out 10 job applications in one night, looked for apartments I couldn't afford, and spent hours mapping out a 5-year plan that I expected to unfold in like 3 weeks. That's instant gratification at work. It's the voice that says, you deserve to catch up instantly because you've already waited long enough. But it doesn't account for reality, people. That life's clock never paused for me. The world kept spinning, people kept moving, systems kept evolving, and I had to learn how to walk again before I could run. Inside we were conditioned to respond to immediate rewards like commissary day, the store day, a letter from home. We all knew when that good chicken tray came at chow. You learn to live for the next moment of relief. Out here, though, it's a little bit different. That mindset doesn't translate because civilian life doesn't pay out daily comfort. It rewards consistency over time. Now, this show about instant gratification, it kind of, I wanted to show how it feeds on frustration. First of all, because instant gratification, it says, why wait when you can have it right now? And that's where a lot of us ended up getting in trouble. We couldn't wait. We cut corners. Um, Translating to civilian life, you start taking jobs that you don't plan to keep. You even start relationships where you're not ready to nurture, or start making promises that you don't have the patience to keep. And that's when that happens, man, we burn ourselves out. We become angry at ourselves, convinced that success is for other people. And that's not the deal. because as we know, success doesn't skip any steps. The person you become is waiting, right? The person you become in the waiting, that part of it, when you're waiting, um, that's the person who can handle the blessing when it comes. So waiting builds humility, discipline, and gratitude. Three things that can't be downloaded, delivered, or rushed. For anyone rebuilding after incarceration, right now thinking, that's a term, guys. Right now thinking. That's the whole thing of instant gratification. It's like right now, you can have it right now. That right now thinking is the enemy of real progress. It's going to turn every delay into a disappointment and every test into a personal failure. So you got to watch out for that, because the truth is most of what looks like no from life is really just not just yet. Right? We think it's no, but it's like not your time, right? But if you don't learn how to sit still, you'll never stick around long enough to see what that's going to turn out to be. So next time that impulse hits, that need to make something happen instantly, just take a pause for a second and ask yourself, am I chasing results or building roots? Because one grows fast and fades faster. The other might take longer, but it will last forever. Now, part of that is about, instant gratification is unrealistic expectations that we have in reentry. When I first got out, I thought life would just fall into place, right? Done everything right, stayed out of trouble, took classes, read books, kept my mind sharp. I told myself I've changed, so the world's going to see that. Boy, was I wrong. What I didn't expect was how much reentry would test what I professed as change. Instant gratification made me believe that my transformation needs to have perks. It needs to have rewards. Like if I've changed, so the world needs to reward me because I've changed, right? I put in the work and expected a return on investment, like it was some type of I guess a vending machine, right? I insert a little bit of effort, and then out the bottom of the machine is going to come my blessings. But life after prison doesn't work like that. Again, guys, change doesn't cash out on demand. Um, I spent years being told when to eat, when to move, like most of you guys. Well, I guess I should, include you guys too, because most of the people that listen to the show are just as impacted, whether they um, ate in a chow hall or they sent money to make sure that their loved one didn't have to eat so much in the chow hall, right? But that whole thing, when you spend years being told when to eat, when to move, when to speak, freedom can feel like sensory overload, right? You think you're ready, but the world has moved on. Um, technology is advanced, relationships have changed, and the streets you once knew um, now is a stranger. So you rush to catch up. You take the first job that calls you back, right? You spend money before you built the budget. You will actually spend all your money before you even know, like, well, I need to save this for this amount. For I need to have this amount for an apartment. I need this so I can have transportation. You're gonna spend it all before you even know what you need to buy. You try to rebuild bridges that have been underwater for years, and when none of it feels like you thought it would, that's when frustration sets in. That's when the inner peace that you need to succeed out here in society, it starts to dissipate. Those unrealistic expectations start to suffocate whatever progress that you may have had. Start questioning everything, like, why am I working so hard if nothing's changed? Why isn't my family proud of me? Why am I still struggling? That's one I had really, really bad, guys. I used to think to myself, why isn't my family proud of me? Right? The truth is, nothing's wrong with you. I was just expecting fruit from a tree that I've only just planted. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn after coming home was that the world doesn't owe me nothing. It doesn't owe me anything, right? It doesn't care that I've changed. Change is personal. First of all, let's get that out there. Change is personal. Just because you change don't mean the world gonna change for you. It's gonna do its own thing. Um, the change is so personal, it doesn't guarantee that you're gonna get applauses. Okay, people remember your past longer than they'll believe your present. That's not hate. That's just human nature, right? They will remember your past before they'll see anything you got going on now. I expected my family to heal overnight. Like, I expected employers to overlook my record and society to open its arms and say, "Hey, welcome home." But nah, the world doesn't hand out second chances. It gives you opportunities to prove you've earned them. Every job interview, every bill paid on time, every moment of patience when you want to react, that's your proof. You don't have to get it from anyone else. Unrealistic expectations also show up in how we view success. I mean, we can scroll through social media, see other people winning, and think they're like we'll think that we're behind. But you can't compare your comeback story to someone else's highlight reel. Their chapter might be 5 years in, but you're still on page one. So we got to be especially careful of that because when I stopped comparing, I started building. I realized that peace doesn't come from what I can acquire. It comes from what I can endure. Think about that for a minute. Like, because we think that peace is like in the material possessions that we get or what we can show people. But it's more so about what you can endure, like the struggle, doing without. Every delay, every not yet, it became a part of the process. So I stopped treating progress like a race and started treating it like practice. If there's one thing I've learned, right, is this: success doesn't start when life finally meets your expectation. It starts when you learn to adjust those expectations to meet life. So if you're coming home, starting over, or trying to rebuild something from the ground up, or you have someone in your life that is coming home trying to rebuild, give yourself and them permission to grow slowly. Because what you build slowly, you build securely. Instant gratification, it might hand you a shortcut, but I'm telling you, patience will hand you stability. We want stability. And stability, my friend, is well worth the wait. Now, when it comes to family and the myth of immediate acceptance, I got home, and I still deal with it today. One of the hardest pills I had to swallow wasn't like job rejections or background checks or like any of that. It was the cold silence from people I thought would be waiting for me. I thought that I was going to get like big hugs, long talks, laughter, some forgiveness. Maybe I thought my family would see my growth and say, "Hey, we're really proud of you." I thought when I started a podcast and started writing books, they would be like, "We're really proud of you." But reality hit different. Some of my folks don't answer the phone if I call. Some don't even know what this mission or what I have to say. They don't even know it. They don't even care about that. And others, they even years later, they kind of keep their distance from me. Um, and that's when I realized something deep. Like instant gratification doesn't just show up in how we chase success. It shows up in how we expect love to heal. Um, we talk about forgiveness, or we want it to be. We want forgiveness to be automatic, like flipping the switch. Like I'm different now, and then hope everyone else kind of just forgets the past. But the truth is, while we're doing time, our families were doing time in a different way. They were doing emotional time, carrying the weight of our absence, our mistakes, and their own disappointment. So healing for them didn't start when we got released. Uh, for many of them, the healing hasn't even started. Right? We can say that it starts when they start seeing the new version of us, and that through consistency, not just conversation, but through consistency, they'll realize who you was. That's not the case. I used to think love was proven through like words. Look what I'm doing. I'm so sorry. All of the apologies and promises. But family don't trust words anymore. They trust patterns. And the most um, hurtful thing that can happen to anyone is that on this reentry journey, you are going to make mistakes. And if you make those mistakes while you're trying to heal past relationships, while you're trying to prove to your family that you are not the person you used to be, the you make a mistake, the first thing they're gonna say is like, "I knew it, I knew it, I knew it." All of that was a facade because you know after you build yourself up, you come home and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put everything in perspective. I'm gonna be perfect, right? I'm gonna be the perfect son. I'm gonna be the perfect brother. I'm gonna be the perfect husband because I've made a mistake before and it cost years of my life. It cost my parents, your children, it cost them the opportunity to even see you grow, right? You were gone. And now if you're out and you're doing this, every time you show up, follow through and stay humble, you rebuild another piece of that bridge. But the problem is many of us want to sprint across that bridge before it's finished being built. And we make a mistake. And then that instant gratification says, hey, they don't forgive you fast, they never will. But patience says, keep showing up, keep doing what you're doing. Do it anyway, right? Just do it anyway. And you can't demand healing from someone still holding on to scars. Let that soak in for a minute because you can't. I tried it and I'm telling you, it doesn't work. You cannot demand healing from someone still holding on to scars. Sometimes love looks like giving them space while you keep doing the work. It's realizing that their hesitation isn't rejection, it's basically protection. They don't want to like go through that shit again. They seen you rise before and fall again. What they need now isn't speed. It's just proof that this time is different. Like you're consistent. And here's the hard truth. Even if they never come back around, your growth is still valid. That's what I had to realize too. Like even if my folks never came back around and dealt with me or things weren't the same, that doesn't mean that I have not grown, right? I can't let or you can't let someone else's timeline determine your peace. Some bridges stay burned for a reason, not because of hate, but because life needs you to build new bridges. And we have to stop trying to figure out how to rush restoration. Forgiveness isn't fast food. It isn't fast food. You just order it and it's right there. Here you go. Under 2 minutes. Here you go. Oh, forgiveness is slow cooked through accountability, humility, and time. Those are the seasonings for real forgiveness. The same way we had to learn patience with ourselves, we have to extend it to the people we love. Now, I've learned that you don't rebuild trust by asking for it, you rebuild it by being trustworthy. You become the version of yourself that people can rely on again, even if they're not ready to admit that, hey, Antoine, he looks like he's changed. Over time, guys, actions turn to trust and trust turns to love, but that journey doesn't happen in an instant. So if you're sitting in that space right now where you've changed, but people around you haven't caught up to it yet, don't let that discourage you. Stay the course, keep loving without expectation, and keep showing up without needing any applause. Because one day, the same people who doubted your change will point to your life as proof that change does happen. Now, it's a personal. Most of the I'm not going to say most of the episodes. Every episode that I get on here and do is very personal for me, because I'm walking reentry right now, and I'm just putting it for the world to see. Forgiveness may not be instant, guys, but transformation. I said transportation. Forgiveness may not be instant, but transformation is contagious, and that's what I try to spew with the words that I say on this podcast, the growth, the topics, the people that are on here. And I do have a special announcement. We have Courtney Teasley coming up on our next episode, who's a legal disruptor. She's on the other end of the whole reentry journey, where she's trying to fight. Excuse me, she's trying to fight for people before they are convicted or before they are found guilty. So she's a lawyer. Looking forward to that. Where was I? I guess the whole transformation process for me, um, it tested my patience, especially with relationships with my family. Now, work, purpose, and the long game is where you're going to really get it. The first time I landed a job after coming home, I felt like I was finally winning. It wasn't glamorous. Now I was working in a warehouse. I got it through temp service that let's say uh, one of my friends coming up through school. He worked at a warehouse. He was a supervisor there, and I reached out through Facebook. I was like, "Hey, bro, like looking for a job. Can you help me?" He's like, "Well, I'm a warehouse supervisor over here, but we work through a temp service." So I went and applied, passed the drug test. It wasn't too much, um, warehouse picking orders and stuff like that. Like it wasn't good, but it was mine. First few weeks, I showed up early. I didn't even have a car. I ended up getting rides. Right, I stayed as long as I could before my ride would get there, and then eventually I started meeting people there, and they kind of like, okay, you seem pretty cool. I'll take you home, or you know, the bus situation, all this good stuff. And I smiled through every exhaustion. But after a while, that excitement started to fade. Like the pain didn't stretch far enough because I wanted a apartment. I needed a car. Um, the work started feeling repetitive. And my pride started whispering, man, you deserve more than this. Boy, you done did all this time, and this what you doing right now? That's how instant gratification sneaks into your career. Not through laziness, but through impatience. It convinces you that hard work only matters if it pays off immediately. You start measuring purpose by how much you get in your paycheck, not by the progress that you're making, not by you taking care of your credit or rebuilding your credit. Um, and that purpose, man, sometimes it don't look like a promotion. It's an endurance race, and I can remember I was showing up not because I love what to do, but because I was trying to build something through it. Um, Even with River Pro, the little cleaning company that I created, me and my wife. Shout out to my wife. I thought I have clients lining up by the end of the first month. I started doing a business card. I had a little website, had some uniforms. Before I even had a contract, I wanted to look successful before I even was successful, and I looked the part. Right, I was able to decorate the foundation before it even got set. So when the calls didn't start coming in like I thought it would, I got discouraged. I started like, dang, this ain't gonna work. Maybe I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur at all. But then it hit me. It hit me. It was the same pattern I had lived most of my life. If I didn't see results fast enough, I'd pivot, quit, or distract myself with something new. The pattern wasn't in the work, it was in my patience. I didn't have it. After all that time, I still didn't have patience. And the truth is, every great thing you see, every business that you see out there, every brand, every career, it was once invisible. Somebody was out there planting seeds. Nobody else could see those seeds, but somebody was planting seeds for those businesses, for every career, those brands. And then finally, they had to trust those seeds enough to keep watering them, even when there was no proof of anything growing. Right? That's the whole thing. And I just kept planting my seeds, man, and kept watering and kept believing. Now, not to toot my own horn, but I got the podcast. I'm able to speak with other people who are on this reentry journey or are in this justice and practice space. got a couple of books out helping others get their books going, get off the ground. So um, that kind of faith is survival because you'll have days when the work feels invisible. You're going to have days when you're grinding, studying, saving, showing up, and there's no breakthrough in sight. And that's when the long game matters because the long game, quiet as kept, it says keep showing up, right? It says you're not just earning money, you're earning credibility. Every boss who can vouch for your character, every client who trusts your name, that's currency that outlasts any amount of money that you. The quick payoff feels good, but I'm telling you, it fades fast. I don't even have to tell most of y'all that the quick payoff, it gonna feel good, but it's gonna be gone. And that's what we're trying to do here on the show. In this episode, we're talking about the long game of, or the other side of instant gratification. And that's the kind of freedom that we don't want to lose when life gets hard. Um, you got to stop chasing overnight success. I guess that's this episode in a nutshell. You got to stop chasing overnight success. Start investing in daily excellence. You got to trade the question, how fast can I get it, with a question that says, how well can I build this? How solid can I make this? Because those shortcuts might get you there faster, but it won't keep the structure there. So whether you're working a job you hate or building a dream from scratch, remember, patience doesn't delay success. It protects it. And whatever you rush, you ruin. Whatever you nurture, you're going to keep. And that slow grind is what we want to keep pushing now. Um, it takes some muscle to make it through. And I'm just going to tell you that the muscle that I really had to work on was my patience. Because patience isn't something you're born with; it's something you build, right? It's that muscle that you build, and it only grows through resistance. Every time life says "not yet," every time something takes longer than you think it should, that's a workout for your patient muscle. Of course, with me, I talk about when I came home. I thought patience meant just waiting quietly, sitting in the doctor's office, just bored, frustrated, counting the minutes. But patience isn't about not doing nothing. It's about doing the right things while you wait. It's about sitting in that doctor's office and maybe applying for another job. It's about sitting there not bored and frustrated, but using that time to jot down your next idea or trying to figure out what your next move would be if things don't turn out right. It's the difference between waiting on opportunity and for preparing for opportunity. There's a phrase I repeat on this show and to myself. Don't get ready, stay ready. Right? That's what patience looks like in motion. It's learning, saving, training, improving, even when nobody's watching. Because when the opportunity finally shows up, it can often be too late to start preparing for it. You got to be ready then. In prison, patience look different, right? We didn't have control over much. We waited for child, we waited for rec, we waited for mail, we waited for count, but that kind of waiting doesn't build you, it numbs you. That was the most numbing experience ever. You knew what was gonna happen. You're like, oh man, don't let a good football game be on, or something going on. The daylight is good, and they can't get the count right because we can't go back out to wreck because they can't get the count right. I used to think they was messing up the count on purpose so that we didn't go outside. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they were short staffed and they was like, you know what? It's sunny outside. We just not getting here on a Saturday or a Sunday. You know what? We gonna just lock the whole countdown, just everybody in. But the sun's just beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Sun, it wasn't no drama, wasn't no peace. I mean, no, wasn't no drama. It was peace. That's what I meant. I said no peace. It was no drama. Just like just out. They'll come in and lock down the yard because they ain't want to be outside. Maybe they had their little and I'm not shout out to the CEOs who listen, man, but maybe they had their little cookouts and stuff. They ain't want to be dealing with us out down the yard. So but out here though. Sorry, I'll be going on those rants there. Out here, patience has to be intentional. You're not waiting for someone to open the door. You're building the key while you wait. Now, that impatient mind looks for excuses. You have to look out for those excuses. It's going to say stuff like, stuck, taking too long, it's not working. But the patient mind says, I'm still building. The truth is, waiting isn't wasted when you're working on yourself. Every delay can cause you or can serve you if you learn how to stay focused. I remember months when my business badly broke even and I questioned if I should ever give up. I told myself, man, maybe this ain't for me. But patience reminded me like the test always comes before the testimony. Every season of stillness is basically preparing me for the weight of what's next. So just think about it. Like muscles don't grow while you're lifting; it grows while you're resting and repairing. Right? That's when it be sore. Same is true for your mindset. It isn't going to grow while you're out there doing the work. It's going to be growing while you're resting, while you're repairing. Right? So sometimes God, life, however you defined it, like it will withhold certain blessings not to punish you, but to protect you. Because getting something before you're ready for it can be worse than not getting it at all. Patience is a discipline. It's discipline. Discipline under pressure, I like to say. It's keeping your emotions in check when everything in you wants to rush. It's like turning frustration into focus. And the more you train it, the more control you gain over your life, you start reacting less and responding more. You start seeing time as an ally, not an enemy. And that real reward of patience, um, more than the outcome, is who you become along the way. I ended up becoming calmer, wiser, more strategic. My wife might say something different, but I know, and she'll tell you too. Sometimes if you catch her right, she'll let you know that cause we've been married what almost 12 years now, and she can tell you like I'm not that person that when we first met. I'm still that person, but the growth is there, right? She started trusting the process instead of trying to force it on me, right? And that's the kind of peace you gotta have. Shout out to my wife. Um, I was about to say. Um, so if you're in a waiting season right now, waiting for that job, waiting for the healing, the chance, just the proof. Don't lose hope. Waiting isn't punishment; it's preparation. You're not being ignored. You're being developed. Keep doing the work. Keep watering your seeds. Keep showing up when no one's clapping. Right? Because patience doesn't make you stronger. It makes you ready. When that moment finally comes and the door opens and that opportunity aligns up with everything you got going on, fear and the universe, the people who doubted you finally see it. You'll realize that the wait was never wasted. It was the workout that made you unstoppable. So, with that, uh, one thing I want to take from this episode is that the world might move fast, but your purpose doesn't have to. Instant gratification will always tempt you to rush the process, to chase validation, to expect blessings on your timeline. But what's meant for you will never require you to compromise who you're becoming to get it. So here's your challenge this week. Stop scrolling for inspiration and start planning. Find one area of your life where you've been impatient. Maybe it's your job, maybe with your family, maybe your goals. Just slow it down. Commit to the long game. Focus on building something that can't be shaken by time or trial. Because the truth is, every shortcut leads to the same dead end, frustration. But every small, steady step towards uh, just a steady step forward, it will build a legacy. So if this episode spoke to you, share it with somebody who's struggling to stay patient. Somebody that's trying to do right, but feeling like nothing's happening right now. It's not happening fast enough. Let them know that they're not alone. And if you're serious about changing your mindset and reclaiming your story, subscribe to this podcast. New episodes drop every week or so. Real stories, real people, and real strategies for transformation after incarceration. Because growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up in Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music. And you'll realize, for real, you've become everything. That was a shameless plug. When you realize you've become everything you once prayed for, that's the most beautiful thing. Keep going. Slow doesn't mean stuck. You're right on time. I want to thank you guys for joining. Talk to you guys next week.